it's Karen here. Welcome, it's day 12 in our 24 days of tags. That means we are halfway through. And of course, Christmas trees, fir trees, spruce trees are synonymous with Christmas time. So here I've got a choice of two things. I'm showing you how to do this technique on watercolor card with these trees, and then stamping with a Distress Oxide background. So we will start with this one, and this one I'm going to whiz through for you because you'll have seen me blend and stamp 1,000 times. So I'll go through that one very quickly, and then I just added a reinforcer at the top. The two colours here that I'm using are Peacock Feathers and Blueprint Sketch, a couple of my real favourites. These gorgeous trees that I'm using are the new trees from Sweet Poppy Stencils. They are the fir tree and the spruce tree, and you get a large and a small in each of them. So this one's the spruce trees that I've used, but here are the fir trees, and they're just lovely. There's so much detail on them. What a joy. So as I say, I'm going to be using the spruce trees, and I'll come to that one second. But this one, watercolor card, this is the watercolor card that I'm using, but do you know, any watercolor card would do. So I'm using hot pressed. What happened, the difference between hot pressed and cold pressed is that hot pressed is often a bit smoother and therefore easier for those stampers. And if we're going to stamp on it, it's a bit easier than some of the cold press stuff, which is a bit more ripply, but not impossible. And to that end, that's why I'm going to use my stamping platform today to make sure that if I need to go in twice or 3 times, that I get a nice crisp image here. So to colour our trees for this tag, I'm going to be using the fine tip brush pens from Sweet Poppy Stencils. This is set 2, and I'm using, there's a set 1 and a set 2, and you get quite a few of the colours in both of them, but slightly different shades. And I think for these trees, I just love the greens in this set 2. So the 3 greens. Let me see, I can't find the colours. Where's the colours? Oh, I can't find the colours, so I just looked at the ends. Look at them. So 3 lovely greens and a brown. There are a couple of browns in the set, and there are a couple more greens, but these are the ones that I chose. But you'll see, it doesn't really matter. Now, if you don't have these brush watercolour tip markers, you can use the oxides to colour your stamp. So we'll see how that goes as we go along. So we're going to get started by taking our tag in watercolor card, and I have popped the largest spruce stamp into my stamp press. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my gorgeous pens here, and I'm just going to colour my stamp straight onto the stamp. And as I've shown you before, such a lovely fine tip here. Look at that. They just, you hardly even need to touch the stamp because they just, well, right. So now I'm just going to play. I'm going to start with the lighter, and you know, if you look at trees, they're not all one shade, are they? Especially at this time of the year if you're in the northern hemisphere, because they're all starting to go oranges, browns, yellows. So I'm just putting a tiny bit of this colour in different parts of the stamp, just like that. I'm more or less following the flow of the leaves, so I'm not sort of scribbling it round, and that way hopefully we'll get a lovely image. And then lastly, I'm just going to take my darker one. It's a little difficult to see exactly where you've been, but it doesn't matter if you'll go over some of them. Look at that. Okay. Lovely. Now, I'm going to take my fine little spruce bottle. Tiny, tiny little spray here. You want a very fine mist. And I'm just going to splatter, well, spritz my tree so that it's covered with water. And then I'm just going to stamp it. And up. So look at that. That's a bit fun, isn't it? Now, the problem with going in twice is that the brown may well smush, that's a technical term, smush all over the rest of the card. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to use my big spritzy bottle and I'm just going to clean my stamp. Now, someone asked me in the group where I get my cloths. These I buy from Tesco. You get a pack of 3 and they're like £5. They are huge. They're like 60 centimetres square. And sorry for those who, let me just work out what, someone asked me, can you do it in inches? So what is that? That's 24 inches square, more or less. And they just last for ages. And when they're full of ink and stuff, then I just tend to pop them in the washing machine. Okay, so look at that. Isn't that drying beautifully? Lovely. I think that's better than my original, actually. Right, now I'm going to take the smaller one. Now, if you don't have a stamping platform, it'll work fine on an acrylic block, but I just put it in my platform because then I've got, okay, now actually I'm going to have to move this to the center. So sorry, why am I using my stamping platform? Just because I feel like I've got a bit more control. If I was on my acrylic block, I'd have to go straight down and it's a bit squidgy and splattery with water. So there we go. So like the original here, I just put it sort of a bit up and then the last one we'll put a bit further down in the front. So that's the smaller one. And I'm going to do the same. Quickly going to go in with my little brown. Now, I'm not extending the trunk right up to the top because brown, if you mix brown with anything, everything goes brown, doesn't it? So I'm just going to keep it down at the bottom there. And you can vary the colours. So this one make it a bit lighter than that one, which is a bit darker. Back in with my spritzy bottle, give it a light spritz, and over we go. Oh, I'm loving those. Now, before we do the third one, we really need to dry this off because if we do it with the other two wet, it could land up a real smushed mess. So I'm going to dry that off and come back to you. So now we're going to do the third tree and I'm just lining it up there and I'm going to colour it in exactly the same way as I did the other two. Now for this one, I put a bit more of that olive colour in it. Don't worry about the bubbles, they will go. There you go, they just popped as we dry it. So I'm going to go, look at that, I'm really happy with that. You can see the different colours that you've got in your tree where I use the different coloured markers. So I'm going to dry that off and come back to you. Okay, so what we're going to do here now is I'm going to put a little border around it. And for this one, I'm using forest moss. Now, There it is. It's not a colour that I use very often, but now that I found it, I love it. It's a really sort of olivey green, but I just love the look of it. So we're just going to go around the edge with my blending sponge very quickly. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some splatters on it. Actually, before I do the splatters, we're just going to ground the bottom of these trees. Now to do that, this is just a piece of copy paper. I'm going to tear a bit off, and I'm just going to, there you go. Did you see how randomly that was? Like that. And we're just going to get a bit of grounding. So I'm going to do it upside down this way. And I'm just going to flick. This is a flicking motion with my hand, so it doesn't look too solid. I'm actually going to go in with black soot on this one because I want it just ever so slightly darker. But you can see how I'm hardly touching the paper there, just to give it a bit of something else so that you notice it. And then I'm going to go back in with my forest moss just to make it a bit darker and join it all up again. There you go. I'm loving that. Okay, now for our splatters, I actually want to go in with something a bit lighter, so I might pick Rustic Wilderness. I mean, Rustic Wilderness is still a very dark colour, but it's lighter than Forest Moss. Do you know, I love these colours and I know them all off by heart. And actually, when I see things in a shop and I'm trying to describe it to someone, I use the colours. And I think they must think that I'm nuts. Like, what even is that colour? But I know in my head what colour it is. So just a tiny bit of water onto that bit of ink. And I'm just checking. So I've got a ruler and my fan brush. I love this fan brush. The bristles are quite wide. You don't want anything too dense or clumpy because otherwise your little splatters they'll be too much, because we want to do this lightly for these little tags. Tiny bit down the bottom here. There we go. Lovely. Put that in my water. I put it in my water straight away, so that next time I want to come use it, it's clean. Now, I'm very careful not to leave my brushes in the water overnight because it will ruin, let me just show you. It'll ruin this metal bit. It'll also ruin the bristles because they've sat like that. So I will leave it in for a couple of seconds and I'll take it out and I'll dry it. And that way this metal bit doesn't get all rusty. I'm loving the look of this. Now, I'm going to put a reinforcer on this one. I didn't on the other one, but I'm quite liking the idea. But of course, in order to do that, we need the glue. If you could see my desk, it is a shocker. I mean, sometimes it's bad, but this today is, ooh la la. Never mind, you can't see it, so lucky me. There we go. I like that. It just gives it a bit of something else there. Now we're going to put our Festive Wishes sentiment, and this comes, I think this stamp set is called Joy to the World. I love it. Look, you get a wishing a Christmas full of peace, love and good cheer. lovely Merry Christmas. Maybe it's Merry Christmas, but it is from Sweet Poppy Stencils. And we're just going to, again, I am going to put this in my stamp press. And the reason for that, again, as I say, the texture on this card means that I just might need to do it more than once. So given that I'm loving this tag, I don't want to have to do it again. Oops, those little magnets. So if that happens to you, I found sliding them off is the best answer. There's no trying and pulling them because they're so, well, they do their job. They stick together. But I find that if you prise them across each other, you get a better result. So on the original, I just put my festive wishes there. So that's what I'm going to do here. Just there, like that. This is such a delicate little font. I'm using Nocturne, upside down, Nocturne. Oh, look at that. I'm loving it. So there we have. I just threaded some extra ribbons, and I've used 2 tones in my American seam binding ribbon to match the colours on my trees. So there we have that lovely tag. I do hope that you will tag me in your makes. And as for this one, as I mentioned, you've seen me do the blending and the splatters a lot of times. If you haven't and you are unsure, please send me a message and I'm more than happy to share and show you. But I used peacock feathers for the top, blueprint sketch for the bottom with my smoothies, and then I stamped it with Nocturne, one tree, and I just put the second tree a bit lower down, and this one I just did second generation, so I stamped it on a piece of paper before putting it there. That way it sort of looks as though it's further in the background. So here you can see you've got the detail on these lovely stamps. So there we have it, the spruce tree from Sweet Poppy Stencils, 2 ways. I would love to see your makes. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.